Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Raw Life Health Show. I'm so excited to have another great guest on. It's my good friend, Bob McCauley. And Bob's been eating a raw vegan diet for a long time, and he's very outspoken about it. So we're going to hear his story today. So hello, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. How's everything? Thanks for having me on.
I've been wanting to have this interview for a while because you've been so consistent with your indulgent with your, telling people this message of health, and you're a living example of it. So tell everybody your story of how you got to. So you've been on a raw vegan diet now 100% for over 20 years, correct?
Yeah.
So how'd you get into this? Were you sick when you were younger? What's your story? And I'll ask questions after you tell your story.
Okay. So I started out well, first of all, I've been a vegetarian now for 42 years. And I became a vegetarian in India in 1980. I was traveling. I had a backpack, and I just was there for 6 months. And I remember the very last time I ate meat, it was in Jammu, India. And it was on the street, and it was really delicious. It was curry, but I kept getting sick all the time when I was there, even right after I arrived. And then you looked at the meat, and you looked at the chicken, and they had mutton, which is lamb. So that's all they had, and it was sketchy. So I'm just like, forget the meat. And then I kind of, I got to know their philosophy. That's why I went there. I kind of was, searching for God type of thing. And I just wanted to go everywhere. I was so fascinated with it. So, I started reading the Bhagavad Gita. That's their Bible. And I'm not any kind of Hindu or anything. I'm Christian. But, I just got into the philosophy of not eating meat. And of course, there was none available. So after I left India, I just stayed with it. And this was in 1980. So by the time I got home in 1981, I mean, there was no vegetarians. I mean, they were like, what's a vegetarian? And I don't eat meat. And you're like, oh, you eat chicken, right? And I'm like, no, I don't. That'd be meat, So there was a lot of, things. My parents thought this was really strange. And so I was like that for about 18 years. And then, slowly I got introduced to spirulina, which is, people call it a blue-green algae. It's really cyanobacteria. And then I discovered chlorella. And then it was really, honestly, who kind of introduced me to raw foods is our mutual friend who just passed away, Hiawatha. And she didn't introduce me to the raw food diet. She gave me some sprouts, and she was trying to get me to sell these sprouts that she was, growing in my store. So I started doing this, and then I said to myself, okay, now why do I want to eat a sprout? Why do, okay, enzymes. So the word came up, enzymes, and then I got a book by Edward Howell. I think it's Edward Howell, raw food, the enzyme therapy book, and I read it, and then it just all made sense. So I said, okay, here's what you want. You want raw foods. You're only going to find these enzymes in one place. And he talked about foods that didn't have enzymes and how they could be, or enzyme inhibitors, that they could be dangerous for you. So I kind of learned a little bit about that. And then, I had all these vitamins in my refrigerator, Solgar. I was spending a fortune on that. And then I just went, wow, there's just like between the spirulina and the chlorella is a green algae, and my raw foods, why do I need any of this stuff? So I probably took it all. I don't think I threw it out, but I think probably finished it off. And that was the last time I had any kind of supplement like that. And then, I attended one of their raw food potlucks back, and that was about 98. And that was here in Lansing. I was Cricket Lot was there in Hiawatha. And I just was eating all these foods, and I mean, like they're 100% raw, and they were delicious. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this. They're making, like these salads, and they were making spaghetti, and they were making sweet potato pie, and it was just unbelievably delicious and all raw. So that's how I got into it. And then by around 98, 99, I was, probably 80% raw. I transitioned through with rice, because I figured you needed rice to kind of fill you up. And then you needed this starchy carbohydrate, so, because I didn't really have anybody who really explained the whole thing to me. Here's what you want to do. Here's how you have it. I just knew that because I took the spirulina and the chlorella, And I'm a runner, and so I'm always been athletic, and I could just see my times were dropping right away. My recovery was quicker. I felt better. And the one big thing that I got out of my diet was, so I stopped eating meat, but I was eating a little bit of fish, some eggs. When I was in India, I was living like, 3 months on eggs and peanuts that I could, because you could shell it in front of me and I could watch them cook the eggs. But then I gave up, especially the dairy products, and then all my sinuses cleared up, and I just felt so much better. So that's how I got into it. And then I was just making a lot of salads because I didn't know what else to do. And really, to this day, I usually don't eat until noon. I always want to fast. I like to have like a good, if I can, at least a 12-hour, maybe 15-hour, 17-hour fast every single day. And that, so I've just, you got to clear out that stomach. And so I wait till about noon, and then I have fruit, and because it's light and it doesn't, weigh it down or anything. And then I eat spirulina and chlorella, and lots of water. That was another thing right around that time, because I opened my store. I started bottled water in the bottled water business out of my house. And then I got my own store because I could see these supermarkets are just going to control my whole lifestyle or my whole business and everything. Because I was doing great in the supermarkets when they wanted me to, and so then I had to get my own store, and that was a blessing because I get all these people that wanted, what I realized at the time, that water is a health product, and nobody else really saw it as that, and so all these health people just kept coming in, people like Hiawatha and all sorts of other ones. And then, like I said, I found out about the raw food potluck and all that thing. And so I just said, wow, this is it. This is fantastic. So by year 2000, I was really pretty much a raw foodist, eating a lot of fruit during the day, and then a salad at night. That's how I was doing it. And then I had this rice, and it took me about 4 years to get rid of the rice. And you can see how addictive that is, because, it took me 2 times to say, okay, I'm not going to eat rice anymore. And then I kept eating it. And, it's just something you don't need, you don't need rice, you can sprout it maybe if you want, but you don't need rice. So that's how I got going. And then I was into the water. I was always a water drinker. Because I grew up on, and I know you had a real junk food diet back when you lived in New York. You were, and I grew up in the 60s, and I tell people all the time, my bones are made out of Coca-Cola and Oreo cookies. And I just eat, garbage. I was in high school and a runner. I was one of the best runners in the school. And my coach said, he says, don't eat this crap. Don't eat this potato chips and candies and soft drinks and pop and all that stuff. And it was just like, I never heard anybody ever say, when you eat this will improve you or hurt you. I never had any education. The public schools, they don't give you any education on what to eat. You can see what's in the public schools in the cafeterias. It's garbage. But my coach just mentioned that, and it was like the first time. So actually, when I lived in Israel while I was in college. I went to Israel for 6 months. I lived there. I lived on a couple of different kibbutz, and that's when I gave up all the junk. But it's after that, when I graduated from college and I traveled all over the world and I went to India, that's when I really got first into the vegetarian diet. But, I did that for many years, and becoming a vegetarian and even becoming a cooked food vegetarian, that's a step toward health. But, becoming a raw food, vegan, that's 10 giant leaps. There's nothing compared, because that's the true health. That's really what health is all about, is the raw food diet. If I ever eat anything cooked, then I don't feel good, and if I really don't eat something good, lada or something, I don't feel good at all. It's just as simple as that. Whereas I can eat, like I do every night now. I do my kind of do fruit during the day, always my spirulina and chlorella, because you want a little bit of protein. You don't need a lot. And then I do my salad at night. And then through the years, I found out more about, I found alkaline ionized water. It's very important. That's a big part of my health protocol. And then I not too long, I found out about probiotics, and I'd never heard of it before. And then I found out later in the mid 2000s about minerals and staying mineralized. I do these liquid angstrom minerals, kind of like these. You take a little teaspoon and put it under your tongue, so a capful or teaspoon. and that's the best way to get minerals. So little by little, I kept, finding out what, really belongs in the body and what doesn't. And so that's how I got going on the whole
Right.
thing. And like I said, I just stayed, I stayed vegan. Meat, all your animal foods, I always tell people, every time I make a video about meat, that's when they attack me. Everybody it's all the meat eaters. And even though I have said for all these times, you want to eat meat. I'm not going to get into all these, animal rights issues because it's a totally different subject. It's not that I disagree, but, it's where you get your protein. So you look at the animals we eat, they're almost all vegetarians. In fact, I can't think of one, like a cow or a chicken or a fish. They're all vegans. And they're just taking the food into their body and then creating the flesh or the fat or accumulating the fat. And then we eat them. So they're just a middleman. And we eat those for the taste. I mean, so the only reason we eat any food, in particular cooked foods, is because you like the taste. And you're under the mistaken, notion that they're actually healthy for you when they're not. And that's the really hard thing for people because they come in with their home cooked meals. Like I go to church, we have a big potluck once a month, for the men, we go down there and they bring in all their, spaghetti and it's all homemade and all that. And they're chili. And then they're like, well, this is healthy food. And, I said, well, it tastes good, but it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So people can't get past that. Yeah.
Sure. So
Yeah.
let me ask you. So what's your age currently?
65.
65, and you have no health issues?
None whatsoever. I always go once a year for my blood work. It always comes back perfect. My B6 is fantastic. That's your brain B vitamin, B5 also. And my B12 is, both of them are off the charts. And by the way, where you get B12 for a vegan is you need cobalt. I got some right here. That's my liquid. Okay. And then you need bacteria. So you need probiotics because it's the bacteria and the cobalamin. That's why they call it, methylcobalamin. And you don't want the cyanocobalamin, by the way, because that's a cyanide molecule. So that's what they usually manufacture. And that's what you see in all these B12 supplements. But I'd stay away from that. I did a few videos on that recently, but, because they're always, where are you going to get your protein? Well, you get it from spirulina and chlorella, and all you need is a small little handful of spirulina and chlorella. Protein, I think, one of the most misunderstood nutrients. The idea that we need like a big steak, at the center of our meal. And so really then they'll tell you the average adult guys about our age or whatever, our weight, they need 51 grams of protein a day. Well, really what they're telling you is 51 grams of meat, and about 15% of meat is on average is about maybe 15 to 18% is actual protein. So the rest of that is just, whatever, it's just filler. It's sinew and it's muscle muscle from the meat, but you don't really need that much protein. So the perfect protein sources are spirulina and chlorella. And I will say at 65, I've always been athletic. I work out every single day, except maybe if I got to go to church at night, but I still run a 6-minute mile. And, I know that at my age, if I really want it, and I'm just working out, I'm not going crazy. I'm not doing, tons of stuff. I just want to stay in shape. I weight lift. I think that's important to do every day because an hour after you do hard physical labor, that's when you produce HGH, human growth hormone. And that's really important. It's one of the reasons I take Mucuna every night right before I go to bed, which is an herb, and it's got L-DOPA, and that produces a whole bunch of brain chemicals, but in particular HGH.
I have a question. So you're taking the extra minerals, you're taking the spirulina and the algae, I would consider, and the spirulina and the chlorella. I wouldn't consider that a supplement. I would consider that a food. But you are taking the extra minerals. You are taking the cobalt and
cobalamin. Well, I'm taking cobalt, for instance. I have one.
But would you consider these supplements?
Yeah, I guess you got to get them into your body, so you can say, I supplement with those. And I agree with you 100%. Spirulina and chlorella are whole foods. They're
Now,
just
I've
in tablet
interviewed
form.
people that don't take any supplements at all, and they say they're doing fine. Do you think everyone needs supplements, or it depends where the people are at, where their health is at, where their diet is? Do you think people can need them?
Yeah, in the end, yes, I do think you supplement, say probiotics, if you want to call it a supplement. Okay, you got to have your probiotics. You got to have your digestive enzymes.
And when you say you got to
And
have them, Bob, what do you mean you got to have them?
well, because I don't, okay, it's a good question. You really can't break down all your food if you don't have the enzymes in there. And really, for the most part, unless you really stay healthy, and it's really, really hard to do that no matter, as you get older and older. But, you won't, you really can't get all the nutrients you need and all the things you can get from supplement or from raw food diet, from raw foods, and because you have to eat so much of a great variety of foods, which I big into that. I'd say variety. You need a huge amount, not just of one type of raw food, but as many different types of foods as possible. And you go by the season. Mangoes are in season. You have a lot of mangoes. You have whatever, you got arugula, during the summer, whatever that is, happens to be one of my favorite foods. But so you can do that, but it's just so hard to get everything you want. So digestive enzymes is an example. It's really hard. Your body's really not producing all the amylase and salivase and lactase and all the other different types of digestive enzymes in your body that you can use. So I recommend you supplement with it. For a long time, I kind of said, well, you don't need digestive enzymes because you should be getting those from the raw foods, because essentially raw foods kind of really self-digest. They really get into your body immediately. But in the end, I think you really need the digestive enzymes. It's, again, for years, I wasn't really in favor of that. Once I started taking them and promoting them, they help, they really are necessary. And I always promote these things because I'm a super health fanatic. I think you're a super health fanatic too. But in the end, the average person, they're not going to eat the way we eat. They're not going to live on a raw food diet. And they might have a salad, but they're still going to have a cooked food meal. And I keep telling people, you want to have a cooked food meal and then have a big salad and try to do it that way. But yeah, I mean, I've got all sorts of supplements. I've got this one here. This is called Magtine as an example. This is magnesium L-threonate, and it's the only kind of magnesium that crosses the brain-blood barrier. And anybody with Alzheimer's or dementia of any kind, when they've autopsied them, they see no magnesium in the brain. And same smart monkey, smart monkey full of magnesium, stupid monkey, no magnesium. So there's things you can do to improve your health. So yeah, I'm big into it. I've got some astaxanthin here as an example. That'd be really hard to get. That's from an algae, but that'd be really hard to go out and harvest that yourself. It's not, it's just not given to, that's what makes the pink and the flamingo is the astaxanthin.
Sure. Yeah, I actually am I'm a big promoter of astaxanthin. It's the number one thing I promote because besides the raw food, I mean, I have seen, especially with people that have gotten themselves into a situation with inflammation, the astaxanthin is absolutely amazing. And so I'm a big promoter of that. And, so we all have our thing, but I interview a lot of people that are doing the raw food diet for many, many years. Some people refer to them as a natural hygienist or so on.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them believe in supplements and some of them don't believe in supplements. Some of them put whole foods in a supplement form. So do you think it depends where a person started out and where they're living and all these things determine it, or what food's available to them? Because there are some people that grow their own food. Or do you think everyone is gonna just benefit from the supplements that you recommend?
In the end, I think, I was kind of opposed to supplements for a long time. And like we were talking, the spirulina and the chlorella are whole foods just in tablet form, but the FDA refers to those as supplements, so that's it. You have no choice but to go along with them. But yeah, you really need to supplement with things. I'll give you another example. Would be serrapeptase, talking about inflammation. So that's a systemic enzyme, like where there's digestive enzymes for your digestion, and then systemic or system ion or enzymes for your body. And, everything we do, it's so important to know that everything we do is enzymic reactions. You walk, you think, you talk, you blink, you do anything you do, that is all enzymic reactions. Your little smile, that's a whole complicated sequence of enzymes. So that's what drives everything. What drives every living being on the planet is enzymes, and we're constantly removing those from our diet and eating cooked foods. So that's why you wither away, and why you see people. By the way, another good example would be nucleic acids. Now that's RNA, and RNA is the blueprints to our cell, and it's very difficult to get those into our diet in huge, in large amounts. It can really help us. And when it's this, so if you don't have the blueprints to your cell, the RNA, when your cell goes to divide, then you get it. If you don't have all the instructions, well, you get a diminished copy. And then the next time you get a diminished copy of a diminished copy, and you get worse and worse as you go. And that's why you see people that go from like, so to 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. And then, they start hitting 70, 80, and then 90 to 100. I mean, they just drop right off the map. Okay. And that's because you don't have the RNA. So it's for me, one of the keys to longevity. And again, you get that from concentrated chlorella or chlorella extract, which is known as chlorella growth factor, or CGF. And then there's another type of yeast called fragilis that I sell, and that has huge amounts of nucleic acids. So that's another example of a supplement that really gives you these nucleic acids, or these blueprints to your cells that you're really going to need if you want longevity. Another one would be Tongkat Ali. If you look at anybody who gets old, their testosterone drops off dramatically, and this has a tremendous effect on your longevity. So I promote Tongkat Ali. It's the best form or the best way to get testosterone, because it doesn't produce testosterone in the body. It keeps it in its free form. So that's another one that I promote. And then, as I mentioned a little earlier, Mucuna pruriens. That's an herb. I do a 15% extraction. It's L-Dopa, but that helps you produce HGH, human growth hormone. So that's a key to longevity. So if you really want to stay young and you're really vibrant, yeah, I think supplements are incredible.
So I want to get into your daily routine, but how many supplements, just give me a rough number, or whether the whole foods in supplement form or supplements would you say you take daily?
There's probably 50 supplements that I take. I have a couple hundred products.
Daily, on a daily basis?
Not on a daily basis. So they're all kind of in and out. I have my go-tos. Mucuna's one. The magnesium L-threonate. This one happens to be one of my go-tos every day. Another one is ashwagandha. I take ashwagandha. I do a 2.5% extraction. And when you hear this 2.5%, that's the active ingredient. So you're looking for the willithinoids in ashwagandha. And I mean, you could go get ashwagandha root and try to eat that much, but you're going to have to eat a lot of that stuff to be able to get what you can get from an extracted herb. So ashwagandha is a big one. I'm up in Michigan, so during the winter in particular, I take vitamin D.
Okay.
I like taking vitamin C. I recommend that highly. Vitamin E is another really good one for the immune system.
So let me ask you this, Bob.
Yeah.
Here in Florida, years ago, I remember there used to be this guy he worked at Whole Foods. He worked at Whole Foods, and his name was No Food Fred. And the reason why they called him No Food Fred is he went 1 or 2 years with no food. All he did was took vitamins and supplements. And I found that very interesting. I don't know the details much of the person. I might have saw him once or twice. He was very skinny. But do you think food is our primary source of nutrients, and supplements are true supplements where they're supplementing our diet? Or do you believe, because of where we live in today and how bad the food is, the supplements are the key essentials and the diet is just like the food is more for pleasure than nutrition? Or have a different thought about it?
Yeah, definitely. So the most important thing I do is drink water every day. And I put, that's really, I got a raw food pyramid. And at the bottom of that is water. And that's something, of course, very few people really talk about or understand what kind of water. You always want to stay away from purified water, which is reverse osmosis or distilled water. But that's a huge, I mean, that's what I do. I get up in the morning. I never eat anything until I've drank probably about almost 2 liters of water. You never want to drink more than 1 liter per hour, 1 quart. It's very dangerous beyond that. But yeah, I think so. The foundation of my diet, the nutritional foundation is spirulina and chlorella. That's where I'm getting all my nutrition. So I mean, the really dense, because it's so dense, and this is cultivated in in ponds in a controlled environment outside, and then so it's not taken out of a lake or anything like that, or the ocean, and then so at any rate, and then so food in them beyond the spirulina and chlorella, which you don't need a lot of really, then it's food. So really, it's all these different types of food, and I know it's not as good as what you get. The best stuff you're going to get is out of your garden, or if you can go out and forage for some wild food, which I do in my own yard during the summer. I get a lot of dandelion greens and a lot of lamb's quarter. And, there's a few other foods that are in abundance out there, and I'm constantly taking that and putting into my salad. They're super bitter, so that, it's really great stuff. I mean, if you get
or poisonous, they're either super nutritious or poisonous.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You got to be careful, but I agree that they're so powerful. And as for gardening, it depends how people are gardening. But let me ask you about water, because you have a store called The Watershed, and you're talking about the importance of water. You mentioned the waters you don't recommend. Tell us a little about the water you recommend, but the water you don't recommend, I've always heard, like you recommended not to do distilled or reverse osmosis. Is that because some people say it leaches the minerals from the body because it's just a dead liquid?
Right. Well, so yeah, that's exactly right. So first of all, the reason how we ended up with purified water and being so healthy is because that started back in the 1970s with the health food movement, and everything had to be pure. So we want pure water. Well, ionized or purified water, such as distilled water, reverse osmosis, that's pure H2O. That's a pure chemical substance, and you do not find pure chemical substance in nature, period. Rainwater, they'll tell you all the time, I heard the argument 1,000 times, rainwater is purified water. It's not, because if you take purified water and put it and freeze it in your freezer, and it's going to come out clear, and you're going to be able to see right through it, where if you look at regular water, you put it in there, it's got minerals in it, either tap water or mineral water, that's going to turn all cloudy. And that's because you're getting ice crystals in there. And that's why purified water, like rainwater, is not pure, because if it was, then you wouldn't get snowflakes when it freezes, because the crystals have got to form around something.
That's interesting. I never heard of that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're never going to get this pure, I mean, if you do it with, purified water, you won't get those crystals in there.
I'm going to check
we're not having that rain down on us.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and then so you want the minerals, because number one, purified water leaches minerals from the body. It's a purified substance, and it's acidic. Okay, so it's going to want to grab on anything in nature that's pure, either in its gaseous or liquid forms, is going to want to immediately come into something else and become neutralized. It doesn't want to stay in its neutral state. This is how we end up with tornadoes. You got a cold front and a hot front coming through, and they meet with each other, and they're going to, so we end up getting the tornadoes on the edge of that. But this is the way nature has always been. So that's why you stay away from purified water, because number one, it leaches minerals from the body because it's acidic, and your minerals are alkaline. So you end up losing your calcium, magnesium, that kind of thing. Number one. Number two, it's called, the water molecule cluster is 5-sided. There's a product out there in the market called pentawater, and that's why they call it pentawater. Well, that is not a natural form in or shape in nature. What is natural in nature is the hexagon, the 6-sided object, and you will see that throughout nature. You find it in crystals, you see it in beehives, you see it in crystalline structures all throughout the world. You see it in snake skin. You see it in the bug insect eyes. It's just prevalent. It's throughout there. And the guy that did a lot of work on this is Dr. Gerald Pollack. He wrote the fourth phase of water, and I know him pretty well. And I've interviewed him a few times. And he's been studying something he calls EZ water, or exclusion zone water. Well, that essentially is ionized water, which is what I've promoted for all these years. And because that produces the hexagonal molecule cluster. So you drink purified, if you drink purified or regular water, it kind of fills you up quite a bit. It kind of makes you sloggy. Whereas ionized water, you can drink a big tall glass of alkaline ionized water, and it just goes right into your body immediately. You feel so much better, so much hydrated. I can really taste it. Like I was down in Florida a week ago, and we just had spring water. And when I got back, literally, I walked into the house and got my water, ionizer, and had myself a big tall glass of ionized water. You call it what you want. I'm addicted to it. Whatever, it's a healthy addiction, but I just love it. I feel so much more hydrated.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I'm going to put the information to your shop. It's called The Watershed, and you sell water ionizers on your website, and answer all these questions. You're loaded with information, but I'll put that below. I have some questions about your daily routine, but you were going to say something else about the ionized water?
Well, the main, this real briefly, I wrote a whole book about it. It's called The Miraculous Properties of Ionized Water.
You wrote 3 books, correct?
I've written 7 books now.
7 books, okay.
Yeah, and so this is my best-selling book. Everybody's interested in this. I have sold tens of thousands of copies of this. I never really promoted it. I didn't advertise it. I didn't market it. But people are just interested in what kind of water to drink. But ionized water has 3 antioxidant properties. So when you pour it out like that, you have an abundance of electrons, which is free radical scavenger, a negative ORP, okay, and which is oxidation reduction potential. And this is the key, is the ORP, and then there's active hydrogen in there. And then it's also very alkaline. If you see anybody, when somebody's sick, 2 things about them. That I don't care if it's cancer, arthritis, you name it, that they're acidic, their body is acidic, which you measure in your pH. And you do that, you don't do it one day, you do it first thing when you wake up in the morning, and you do it every day if you can for a month, so you get a moving average, and you'll see you're very acid. You look at a cancer patient on their deathbed, they're going to be extremely acidic. If you ever go to a cancer ward, you walk up there, you're going to have a real strong, unique smell. What's going on there is your body has become so acidic that it's begun to produce this ammonia to offset it. Ammonia is very alkaline. And so your body's just eating itself alive between this acidic and this alkalinity. So you want to raise that body pH up to neutral, and it's very alkaline. The pH is 9.5 to 10. And then again, you've got these small water molecule clusters that are hexagonal in shape. So it's extremely hydrating, very penetrating, and it pushes out all the things that don't belong in the body, which we call toxins. So if you're sick, you're toxic, you have things in your body that don't belong there, and that got in mainly through a cooked food diet, and then you're acidic. And the amazing thing about ionized water is in this thing, like I said, ORP. Raw fruits and vegetables and ionized water are identical to one another in every single way, except ionized water doesn't have any nutrients. So you're really kind of drinking in this raw fruits and vegetables the same.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is some people I've interviewed, they said they don't drink water at all. They just eat fruits and vegetables, and that's where they get their water from. So 2 questions. Number 1, is the water that's in fruits and vegetables alkalizing?
It is.
Okay. And the other question is it okay for somebody to just, in your opinion, to not drink any water and just get it from the fruits and vegetables?
I don't think you're going to get anywhere near the hydration that you need. People talk about drinking. You need to drink half your weight in ounces every day. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you want 50 ounces. That's the minimum. That's just, you're going to lose a gallon of water a day through the natural processes, of the human body. Water is required for everything. And all your digestive processes, all the physiological process in the body, everything involves water. So you've got to have it. It is the cornerstone of health. And like I said, what's so amazing about ionized water and is that it is identical to raw fruits and vegetables. So you're drinking something that is just like nature. And again, I always said ionized water. Everybody said, well, you got to make this with a machine, so it's artificial. Well, you're reproducing what you find in nature, and basically what you're doing with the water, because you're producing two different waters at the same time, one acid.
Well, that's what I meant to
alkaline.
ask you before. I meant to ask you is I said alkalizing, but is the water that's in the fruits and vegetables ionized? That was my supposed.
Well, I mean, they're going to be are they ionized? Yeah, I think they are hexagonal in shape, and I do think they have a negative charge, and that's where that water in there comes from. And like I said, raw fruits and vegetables, ionized water, identical to one another. And there's this key here, I don't want to miss this, is ORP, oxidation reduction potential. So what that is so when you take a raw food, that has a negative charge. And when you eat it, you're reducing the oxidation of your body. And so oxidation is rust and fire. Those are two good examples. So slow oxidation, fast oxidation. Now, when you cook that food and you cook a burger or you make a soup out of it, even if it's a vegan soup, it doesn't matter, you've oxidized everything. So now you're putting into your body something that's been oxidized, is now in the plus range. And so you're accelerating the aging process. And this is why everything you put into your body needs to have a negative charge. Well, again, all we have is raw fruits and vegetables and ionized water. I don't know anything else that has a negative charge. So that to me is really the most important term you can ever learn about health is ORP, oxidation reduction potential. Yes. So that's what, and again, that's why you want to eat raw fruits and vegetables. That's why.
You were talking earlier about the pH and raising the pH and lowering the pH. Isn't the body's blood neutral, the pH neutral, regardless of how you're eating? And is it always going to be?
So your blood is always your blood is always a pH 7.25 to 7.45. That's it. Now, if it gets out of that range, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble fast. But that's your blood. Okay, so anything that gets into the blood that's not in the right pH, your blood, you just immediately shoves it out into the body. Okay, so that's why you get this accumulation of acidity in the body, and this is what it's all about. And again, as I said, you want to measure that through your urine, because you don't want to do your tongue, because that's from the waist up is what when you're measuring your tongue, and that's going to be very deceptive. If you look at elderly people, their pH is going to be very high. You'll see them. I mean, all these nurses will say, "Oh yeah, they're way up there." I mean, they're a pH of like 8, 9. Well, you're measuring, and that's because they've lost their hydrochloric acid. See, they don't produce that at all anymore. And this is why, again, when you eat, you always want to chew your food. They always say chew your juice, and drink your food, that type of thing. And but you want that chewing, because that mechanical action, there's a lot of parts of the digestion. And if you just juice exclusively, you're going to miss that chewing. It's one of the reasons why I don't recommend people chew gum, because you're chewing and chewing and chewing, and you're really activating your digestive process down there, and that shouldn't happen until you're actually eating. So you want to have this diet of raw fruits and vegetables. And like I said, another key thing, so we don't go too far without mentioning, is fasting. So I'm big into fasting. As I said, I like to fast 12, 15 hours every day. That's the healthy, and people have been talking about intermittent fasting. They got all these terms they're coming up with, for the same thing. They're always telling you, always changing things so they can market it a different way. But intermittent fasting, however you want to call it, it gives fasting gives your body a chance to rest, repair, and cleanse itself. And there's nothing else. There's nothing more healthier than fasting. It is the healthiest thing. Now, you can take it too far, but I think a 7-day fast is about as far as you want to go with it. But usually, 1 day or 2 day or 3-day fast. I mean, every religion talks about it. Every health guru, Norman Walker talked about it. He was a purified water proponent. He talked a lot about fasting. Paul Bragg talked about it. Not exactly the healthiest guy in the world, Paul Bragg, but he was a big promoter of purified water.
Besides,
Because
besides
coming out of
not
the
eating,
70s.
besides not eating late at night, your intermediate fasting, or what do you want to call it? How often do you fast? Do you fast 1 day a week, 5 days a month? Do you have any routine?
Oh,
to keep your
I might
fast?
do 1 or 2 days a month, but then again, every single day, I'm getting this, I'm getting this 15-hour cleanse where I'm not putting anything into my body, and it's not really. I mean, I think some of the most greatest expenditure of energy in your body is digestion, and you really and that this is one of the reasons why I recommend taking not only probiotics, the friendly bacteria. I'm big into that. I knew a woman right when I got into this thing. This is back in the mid 90s, and she had a real serious yeast infection, really bad, and in her vaginal area. And so I gave her some spirulina, and it helped a lot, or a little bit, I should say. But I kind of researched it. I got on the internet, and this is in the 90s, so it isn't what it is now. And then I found probiotics, which I really kind of heard about. I thought it was only in yogurt. I didn't know much about it, but that was my introduction to probiotics. And then I gave her some, and within just a week, it was all gone. The yeast infection was totally gone. So not only that, but then, as I said, the digestive enzymes, just to make this so much easier to digest, because there's just so much energy that is expended when you're trying to digest foods. The number one way we lose energy or use energy is the brain, the thinking. That's 85% of our energy is expended through thinking, especially high intense.
What about juicing? Do you juice at all?
Yeah, I juice all the time. One of my favorite juices is in season now, pomegranate, which is a biblical food, probably the best one out there, right? Pomegranate, orange, and grapefruit, maybe a lemon. I just love that. So pomegranates are in season. I paid $1 a piece for them. I've seen them as low as 50 cents, but that is one of the number one extremely powerful antioxidant, and just an incredible fruit, but I juice it kind of like an orange. So I kind of citrus juice that. People don't know how to eat a pomegranate, but so because all those seeds in there and everything. But I juice that. So I usually juice the orange and the grapefruit, and then I put my pomegranate. But yeah, I do that. My favorite juice is probably carrot, beet juice. I might put an apple in there. I like that. There's no kind of juice I don't like. You just got to sweeten it up a little bit.
So how much?
But yeah, juicing's a big part of it. I don't think you can really be healthy if you don't juice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how much juicing do you do throughout the day? Do you do 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups?
No, I'll do it intermittently. Again, how busy I am. There's some juicers out there now that are like $50. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on a juicer. The one I had cost me $35 because it was on sale about a year ago. But I just put the carrots in, and the celery, or whatever else you got in hand. You can do you could do pineapple. What I like to do on the side is if I really got the time and I want to do it right, then I'll juice everything, and then I'll juice maybe a quarter to a half a cup of ginger, and then turmeric. So I'll get the turmeric at the school, juice all those, and those are super powerful. So what I do with those is I kind of, take a swig of that, and it's pretty strong. And then I have some of my sweet juice. But yeah, I do it all the time. So I go in phases, like I'll go like a month and I'll do juice every single day.
Sure.
But, it depends on, how busy I am, what I got to do. But again, and another thing I like myself personally is bananas. I'm a big banana person. I have a couple a day. It's usually about 2 or 3, maybe at the most. They're just super high energy food. They really fill you up. I always buy the organic ones. As far as, obviously in Michigan, we don't get the growing season you got in Florida, but my summer garden is just full of all this stuff. I pretty much eat 90% of my food out of my garden during the summer. I always get organic seeds. I do a lot of greens. I do tomatoes. I'm not really a believer in all this nightshade stuff you should avoid and all that. I really don't know of any raw food you should avoid, other than the ones you were mentioning, the poisonous ones. Like you don't want to do the.
So you are okay with nightshades?
I'm okay with nightshade. Yeah, I do
So
a
let
ton
me
of
ask you,
tomatoes.
besides the food, how much sleep do you get every night?
7 to 8 hours.
Okay, do you
Seven to
feel
eight.
that's
Six
enough
is
for you?
Yeah, that's enough for me. Six
Okay.
is barely enough. And then I might want a nap in the day of 6. Anything below 6 is not good. And I gotta have, I gotta have a nap sometime in the day. And naps are good. I've been taking one. I've gone through years without napping, but I think a good 10, 15-minute nap. I don't think you should be napping for an hour or anything, my opinion. But 10, 15-minute nap, kind of rejuvenate yourself, kind of get you going again, is not a bad idea. It kind of helps the brain to rest a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, again, just that uh, it's not, I don't get too obsessive about it. Some people get so obsessed about what they're doing. I just kind of like just eat raw foods. I'd like give you an example. I got some good arugula at the not the stuff you get in the box. Usually that's kind of the lower end stuff. It's okay. It's raw, and I'd rather have a commercially grown raw food than an organically cooked food any day. Just
Sure.
not
Let me,
organic, but it's the eating it raw is really the key.
well, I want to go through your books with you, but before I do, I got one more question. But everybody, if you want to contact Bob, his contact information can be below the video, his website, and all the social media. You could check him out there and ask him questions. He gets back to you. He's wonderful. Before we get into your books, tell us, give me an example if you don't mind. And I know you buy some things wholesale because you have a lot of things that you believe in. You only really sell what you believe in, so I know you get them in bigger quantities. But
Yeah.
how much on the average day would you say you spend, or the average month in supplements? Or
Well, I'm a manufacturer, so I'm buying everything in bulk. So it's kind of hard to say, but one thing I will say, no matter what, don't ever put a price on your health, because the most important thing in life is you have a relationship with God. Number 2 is your health, because if you're not healthy, you can't take care of your family, you can't run, you can't work, you can't bring in money, you become a liability instead of an asset. So you become first, like they say, the plane's going down, and put on your mask, put on the oxygen, and then help your child. And don't try to put on theirs first, because if you pass out, then you're both dead. So I think health is the key to it, and staying healthy. So what do I spend? Honestly, my wife does a lot of the shopping, but I mean, years and years ago when I first got into it, I read the statement that the raw food diet is the best diet for the king, the greatest king of any country in the world, and it's the best diet for any peasant, and it's the cheapest diet. So when you really look at it, people say, God, I got to spend all this money on all these fruits and vegetables going into the store and everything. I mean, when you buy an apple, okay, that's the amount of nutrition you get. There's a fiber in there. It's going to pass through. Your body's a juicer. So you're going to juice that extract that juice out of there, and it's going to pass through you. Same with a banana, with anything. Now, when you eat a box of Cheerios, okay, there's that much nutrition, and that's it. That's just a filler. And I haven't eaten anything out of a box or a jar or a can. Yeah, I mean, it's probably 40 years now. When I first moved to New York, that's when I started getting away from all that kind of stuff,
here's the
especially
thing.
these days.
Here's the thing. I want to get into your books, but I don't want anyone to be confused by what Bob's saying, because some people can see it in a confusing way, because you're talking about the raw foods and how great they are and how natural they are and how much nutrients they are. But you're also talking about a lot of these supplements that come in bottles and so on. Now, I am a big proponent of astaxanthin. It's excellent for prevention. It's excellent for many things. And over the years, I've subscribed supplements to people because I look at their blood work, and whether it's in the food or not, you got to make sure you're getting it. So I understand supplements. I'm not an anti-supplement person. So I want nobody to misunderstand. But Bob, try to explain it briefly, and then we'll get into your books. You got the food and you got the supplements, because I interview a lot of people that say all they need is the food. Everything we need is in the food, and the food is fine. And they've been doing this for like 30 years. And I know one guy, he'd say he hasn't drank water in 30 years. He just drinks coconut water and eats fruits and vegetables. And we all know some people that even eat meat that are healthy later on in life, and people that aren't. You're
Right.
doing what's working for you, but what do you recommend? Because not everyone could spend hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars each
Yeah,
month
yeah.
on supplements. So, like, if you had to limit it, what would you recommend? I know that the spirulina, and the chlorella, but
Yeah.
if somebody could only take like 5 supplements and eat the best diet they can eat, what would you suggest, Bob?
Okay, so obviously as many different types of raw fruits and vegetables as you can. Okay, there's that. Then supplements, here's spirulina and chlorella. This is together in one tablet. So that's my number two. If you want to call them supplements, again, I think they're whole foods, but okay, that's number one are those two foods, because when you're taking a small handful and that's according to the size of your hand. In other words, if you're a little child or a small woman, you have a smaller hand, or you're a big man, you got a bigger hand, and you take that with your meal, that's all the protein you need for that meal. And then if you want to eat meat, fish, eggs, or dairy, it's strictly for the taste. And these are the most nutritionally dense foods with the broadest array of nutrients of any foods in the world. So that's number one. Number two, I would say you got to get mineralized. When I first had my minerals, examined. I was doing a urine test at the time. You can do your hair, but urine's a little better. I could see I was missing all these minerals in my body, and it's hard to get something like cobalt. Where you're going to find cobalt. Another thing, I'll tell you, we can get into exactly what I do, but another thing I take almost every night before I go to bed is gold, liquid angstrom gold. Now that's not going to be found in any foods, but gold is definitely, there's lots of studies, but we can see it's good for the brain. It's good for sleeping, sleep regulation. It really has a lot of, benefits to the body. Another one's platinum. I've got one here. I take that in the morning. You're not going to find platinum in food. Indium. I take indium in the afternoon almost every day. That's for your pineal gland. So, I'm supplementing, and then I've got a full spectrum that's got them all in there. So I have different ones. I think what supplements can do is enhance the basis of your raw food diet. I think it just enhances it tremendously. I just mentioned one of my go-tos, which is ashwagandha. So I take ashwagandha every single day. Now, you can do ashwagandha a couple different ways. You could chop it up and try to get it. You can't find it anywhere. It's a root, so it's hard to find. And then you could do a tincture out of it with alcohol and extract it, and that'll go right into your bloodstream, and that's really effective. Or you could do an extract, which is what I sell and what I promote. And there's like a 1% or 2.5% or 1.5% or 2.5%. It goes up to like 10%. And again, you're looking for this active chemical. So to get ashwagandha, willethanoids, that's what you're looking for. That's the active ingredient. In Tongkat Ali, it's uricome. Okay, so it takes if you want really get good Tongkat Ali, it's about 100-to-1 extract. So same with like chlorella growth factor. So it takes 100 pounds of chlorella to make one pound of chlorella extract. It takes 100 pounds, or probably more, almost from what I'm eating, 150 pounds of ashwagandha to get these willethanoids that are really extracted. So, to really get that, you could just take ashwagandha powder and put it on your food or start taking every day. I mean, it's just not strong enough to really make a huge effect. And that's the advantage of supplements. Now, I don't get too much into the vitamin supplements. I said D is kind of hard to get, and you get a sunlight in Michigan. We have almost no sun here. So, how it is in New York, the same way, and then C, you can't really take too much C. People can say you could take up to 6 grams a day. I usually take a couple tablets, about 1 gram a day at the most. Vitamin E, I don't take that too very often myself. You can find it in a lot of foods. It's all over the place, but can you get enough of it? It's just like these nucleic acids, the RNA. Can you get enough of them for foods? Almost no, you really can't. So you're gonna have to supplement with something like CGF or this fragilis, this yeast that I mentioned. There's another thing that I sell, but you want these nucleic acids. It's a key to longevity. And just like you want the HGH, human growth hormone, for longevity, I'd say I would attribute my longevity and feeling the way I do, which is clear-minded every single day. I'm full of energy. I have no blood issue. I mean, I have my blood work done. I have no issues in there. And but I attribute my this youthfulness to mucuna and mucuna pruriens. That's an herb. Some people call it velvet beans. And I do a 15% extraction. You don't need, that's what they use for Parkinson's disease is mucuna. But again, they synthesize it. You want to stay away from it. You can't duplicate nature. And you can't change nature. And I tell people all the time, they say, why do you eat a raw food diet? I said, well, God grew an apple and we made a frying pan. And you can't improve on God's creation. I mean, there it is. There's the apple. I mean, you can make an apple pie and it's going to taste better than the apple. I want to eat apple pie. But you haven't improved that. You changed it, you made it taste better, but you did not improve on that original apple. And it's all out there for you. And I think to take these things, such as an example, ashwagandha, or what we call holy basil, or, people call it different names, but blessed basil, holy basil, and extract it and concentrate. That's really amazing that we can do that. And just take a few pills to get these incredible benefits, because what you're looking for in the ashwagandha are willithinoids, okay? What you're looking for in any of these other supplements, for instance, the holy basil, is this one particular nutrient. So they look for that, and they, if you want a different nutrient, like for instance, another one I take is milk thistle. Now I could go out and get all this milk thistle and try to eat it and all this stuff. It's not easy to find, and it's not easy to eat. You got to juice it. You got to do something, to get it what's in there. Or you can just buy milk thistle extract, so 80%, and that's what I do. That's incredible for the liver, very rejuvenating. So I just think, going back, the mucuna is the number one thing. I take it right before I go to bed, because you produce HGH, human growth hormone, about 2 hours after REM sleep. So when you're dreaming, so if you've got that, if you got the HGH present, and you got the L-DOPA is what the active ingredient you're looking for, you'll make that. So I really think what supplements do, and to be honest, I was against supplements 2 years ago, and I got introduced to them by—
How many years ago?
Pardon me?
2 years ago?
No, several years, maybe
several
like 15 years ago.
2 years
No,
ago. Okay.
Many years ago. I mean, probably it was in the mid 2000s when I first started saying, wow, you can really help with these herbal extracts.
Like I said, there's popular people. I mean, like a lot of people I interview, they're okay with some supplements. I'm okay with some supplements. Some people don't do any, but then there's people like Dr. Morse, who highly believes in a raw food fruitarian diet, but he also believes in a lot of herbs, which are considered supplements. So a lot of different ways to do this, everybody. But again, Bob is a proof that this is working. I mean, anyone that could run under a 10-minute miles, they're doing something okay. I mean, I know a lot of unhealthy people that might be able to do that because they're just focused on fitness. But for the most part, I mean, look at him. He's 65. Look at him. Bob, we're wrapping up here. Before we go, briefly, can you roll through, talk about your books and what's in your books? And everybody, you can contact Bob. I'll put all his contact information below. Talk about your books, Bob, here briefly. Okay. Don't get we don't have too much time, but just, I know you got.
Yeah, I'll just roll through them. So I got, so my first book was called Confessions of a Bodybuilder, and it was about spirulina and chlorella. I published that in 2000. And then I really revamped it and I redid it. And this is one of my best books. My best one I'll show you at the end, but this is Achieving Great Health, the 7 Components of Great Health. Gives you my whole health protocol, what I believe. And here you'll see, I don't talk too much about supplements at all, what you can do. And by the way, I'll talk about that one in a minute. And then I wrote a book, this one, which is, this one here is my book on silver. Now, the way that came about, I had meningitis. And I didn't know I had meningitis. And I'm thinking, I'm a raw foodist and I'm in big trouble. I thought I got poisoned. I don't know what it was. It was in 2012. It was in the mosquitoes. And anyway, long story, I went to China. I got through it in 10 days. And it's a 21, you talk about this stuff they got now, this stupid virus. That's nothing. It's a 21% mortality rate with meningitis. And so I got to China and it came back. And I had this little tiny bit of liquid angstrom silver, and because I brought it from my wife, she had a cold, and and it went away within hours. And I documented it, and I showed how I had these welts on my legs, and it felt like I'd run 100 miles. My legs were so sore, and it comes down into your shoulders. I mean, it's a devastating disease. Brain damage is usually the result of meningitis. But I got through with it, and I said, you know what, God didn't do this to me for nothing. I got to write about what happened. So that's my little booklet on that. We've been using silver for thousands of years, and the medical establishment, they just denounce it and reject it and do all that. Then I wrote this book. This is actually my third degree edition. This is the temple he was referring to as his body. That's the words of our Lord Jesus Christ. And he was telling me, this is your temple. Well, when you get sick, it's because you put the wrong things in your body. Okay, you did this. So this is not a measure. People, all disease comes from your diet. Nothing, you don't inherit anything. You inherit your hair color, your intelligence, your height, your looks. That's it. All disease comes from our diet. You will not find any chronic disease in the wild. No one has ever shot a deer or any other animal in wild and brought it back and found it full of cancer, arthritis, fibromyalgia, or anything. So it's Christian based. There's not a huge amount of scripture in here, but it's my health protocol, my 7-component health protocol, and it shows you why you want to honor the temple that God gave you, and that's very important. We talked about how healthy. My latest book is this one here. I write short stories.
I love the cover.
Yeah, thanks. So this is the cure in the mirror. So where do you find the cure for all disease? Go look in the mirror. You're the greatest physician in the world. It's you. It's you. It's what you put into your body. And so people, I tell you, if you're sick, it's because you did it. And the message here is empowerment, because if you did it, you can undo it, and you can do it. And you cannot believe the incredible rejuvenative properties of the human body. I mean, you can do a lot of bad things to it. But when you end up with cancer, and by the way, this is a book on cancer, primarily, it's all my health protocol. And I tell you exactly what to do if you have cancer. But I spend about half of the book denouncing the medical establishment when it comes to chronic and infectious disease. Okay, they're good in emergency situations when you get in an accident. Other than that, they're worthless. They don't know anything about disease. They've taken control of it. They're sitting on the throne of health when they belong, and when guys like us belong on the throne of health, and they should be sitting on the throne of medicine. And medicine doesn't lead to health. They're in totally opposite directions. But the reason I wrote this book, and I've been, it took me 3 years to write this, but everybody either has cancer or they know somebody with cancer. It's just become so common in our society. So people say, well, do you have a cancer protocol or something? So I had something written up. But anyway, I wrote this book. So that's my latest book and my best book. And then I write books of short stories and stuff like that. I write novels. I'm a writer I was born to write. That's what I really do. This is just, this is how I make a living, but I was born to write. But I'm always writing a new book. I'm working on a novel. I'm working on another health book about spirulina and chlorella. I'm always doing something like that because it's the great, God gave me the will to do this. He gave me the knowledge to do it. He gave me the brain. So I got to pass it on to other people. It's not just about me making myself healthy. It's making people have to learn that they can do all this themselves. They don't need the medical establishment. They don't need medications. They don't lead to anything but trouble. Anybody will tell you that. So, and I've never been on a medication. I was when I was a kid, not for very long. I wasn't really a sickly kid. But I've never been on a medication. I don't take any medications now. And just for the record, I don't know anyone that's my age that isn't on medication for arthritis. They can't sleep. They take Ambien. This stuff is really, if any one of my products had any of the health warnings that these pharmaceuticals have, they would never let it on the market. They would never. No. 2% people get internal bleeding. Who would buy that? This causes internal bleeding. Chlorella does that, And I've always noticed that mothers scrutinize these foods so much. And what's in there? Can my children take it? And is it safe? And I answer all the questions. And I said, now, I like all these questions. This is the way you should think about this. And you should also think that way about all the other crap that you see in the supermarkets, like soft drinks, like pop, like Coca-Cola. All this stuff is just in all these stuff in bags and all these chips. Look and see what's in there. Think about, is there a potato chip tree? Is there a pizza tree? Is there is there a steak bush? No, there's none of these things. There's raw fruits and vegetables. There's an apple tree. There's, all these things. And before I forget, so I got a few other books, but won't go into it. But so I don't forget, another thing I do in the winter is I do a lot of sprouting. I do a whole bunch of, it's easy. And if you want the cheapest food and some of the healthiest food you ever put into your body, get yourself some organic seeds and just get yourself sprouting. I do broccoli seeds. I do, red clover. I have a whole variety. I do radish seeds. So that's a big part of my dinner and my consumption in the winter, because I don't have a garden anymore. I'm not like you lucky guys down in Florida. So there you go.
I agree. I fully agree. I'm a big component of sprouting.
Yeah.
And I fully agree with that. And I just want to thank you for your time today. And again, I'm going to put your contact information below for people that want to check out your books and get in touch with you. And thank you so much for all the information you share, and keep up the great work you're doing.
I appreciate it. Watershed.net. You can find out, by the way, all these books I showed you here, they're all on Audible. So I read them myself, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done, to read a book. It is super difficult not to make a mistake. It's very time consuming, but I put all these on audible.com, or they're on Amazon, and you just look up Bob McCauley, ND, that's naturopathic doctor, and you'll find all my books. And go to shop.watershed.net. I'll answer all your questions. It's a greatest gift of my life to be able to tell people how to be healthy, because it's so important. Thanks for having me, Paul. You're the best. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. We'll talk soon. And thank you, everybody, for watching, for your comments and questions below. And everybody have a great day.